6 horror films exist to prove that no locked door, no empty road, no remote wilderness, and no quiet house means you are ever truly safe, because something is always there. These aren't standard ghost stories. These are films that target the terrifying realization that no matter how hard you run, you are never truly alone. Let us get into it. Significant Other. Dan Burke and Robert Olson's 2022 science fiction horror Significant Other opens with a red object crashing into the Pacific Northwest wilderness and a tentacle pulling a deer into the earth. Ruth and Harry are a couple arriving in those same woods for a backpacking trip. Harry proposes at a scenic overlook, and Ruth, who struggles with anxiety, panics, and says no. Wandering into the trees alone, she finds a cave lined in a glowing blue gel. The next morning, Harry takes a solo walk into the woods and does not come back. The alien had been watching since they arrived, first wearing the body of a deer. It followed Harry into the woods that morning, killed him, and sealed his remains inside a cocoon in the cave. It then took Harry's form completely, memories included, and Harry's feelings for Ruth are now preventing it from completing what it was sent to do. Ruth discovers Harry's body in the cave and understands what is standing in front of her. The creature does not attack her. It takes her to a beach, shows her a cloaked spacecraft buried in the sand, and tells her an invasion is coming and it will take her to safety. She stabs it and leads it into the water where a shark attacks the wound but cannot kill it. The creature captures her, drags her back to the cave, encases her in a cocoon, and begins copying her form. Absorbing Ruth transfers all her anxieties into the alien, and a panic attack overtakes it completely. Ruth escapes the cocoon, grabs a rock, and smashes the creature's skull. She reaches her car and drives. The radio carries the creature's voice. Red objects are falling across every stretch of sky. She thought she was alone out there. The whole planet is about to find out what that truly means. The Wind. Emma Tammy's 2018 supernatural Western horror. The Wind opens on a remote stretch of 19th century frontier land in New Mexico where the wind never stops and the nearest neighbor is miles away. Lizzie and Isaac Macklin have settled there alone, and on their arrival, a traveling reverend hands Lizzie a pamphlet titled Demons of the Prairie and a Bible. Lizzie has already lost a stillborn baby on this land and marked the grave with an S. When a young couple, Emma and Gideon Harper, arrive on a nearby homestead, Lizzie is unsettled from the start. Emma is young, unsteady, and frightened of something she cannot name. Strange things begin. Wolves appear at the cabin door. An entity large enough to be a man pounds against it from outside at night. Objects move. Lizzie cannot sleep. Emma, who is pregnant, begins describing the same presences Lizzie has already seen and confides her terror directly. Then Emma shoots herself. Lizzie attempts to deliver her baby. Neither survives. Gideon buries them both and leaves for the city. Lizzie and Isaac are alone again. Isaac brings Emma's books back from the Harper homestead. Among them is a copy of the pamphlet about demons of the prairie, which disturbs Lizzie further. Isaac finds Emma's journal and confronts Lizzie with it, accusing her of murdering Emma. As they argue, Lizzie is thrown violently across the cabin by an unseen force and impaled on a pair of scissors. She wakes tied to the bed with Isaac sitting across from her. She sees a dark shadow rising behind him. She breaks free and stabs Isaac in the throat with a piece of broken glass. At dawn, she stumbles outside and collapses on the ground. The wind on the plains is exactly the same as it always was. It was always there. She just did not know yet what it carried. Terrified, Aterrados. Demian Rugna's 2017 Argentine supernatural horror. Terrified, known in Spanish as Aterrados, is set on an ordinary residential street in Buenos Aires, where 3 houses stand side by side, and something has already moved into all of them. The film begins with Clara telling her husband Juan she hears human voices rising from the kitchen sink pipes, threatening to kill her. Juan hears noise through the bathroom wall, but assumes it is coming from next door. It is not. He finds Clara being thrown against the bathroom walls by an invisible force. She is dead before he can reach her. Next door, Walter has discovered something living under his bed. It is pale, tall, and naked, visible only when viewed from a specific angle. A night vision camera eventually captures its shape, crouching beneath the frame. Across the street, a young boy is struck by a bus and killed outside Walter's house. Days later, he is sitting at the kitchen table at home, upright, silent, back. Police Commissioner Funes brings in paranormal investigators Jano, Albrecht, and Rosentak to spend a night inside each of the three houses simultaneously. Rosentak is killed inside Walter's house. Jano is attacked, his eye destroyed, his body reanimated and turned against the living. Albrecht's neck is snapped and she reanimates as well. Walter is found dead inside his own walls. Funes escapes, discovers Alicia hanging inside her own home, then returns to the street with gasoline and burns all three houses to the ground. 1 year later, three new investigators sit down with Juan to ask about that night. Juan looks past them and goes quiet. Behind them, standing exactly where they cannot see, is a charred shape that used to be Rosentak. The houses are ash. It did not matter. On this street, no one was ever as alone as they thought they were. Alone. John Hyam's 2020 psychological horror thriller Alone follows Jessica, a recently widowed woman who loads a moving truck and leaves Portland 6 months after her husband's death, driving alone toward a new city with no set arrival date. On the highway, she notices a black SUV ahead, driving deliberately slowly, and when she tries to pass, the driver forces her car toward oncoming traffic. She pulls away, shaken. He disappears. At the gas station where she stops to refuel, the same SUV is waiting in the lot. She leaves without making eye contact. The next morning, the man from the SUV approaches her at the motel and apologizes. He seems ordinary. His name is Sam. She encounters him again on the road, stopped in the middle of the lane claiming car trouble. She drives past. Over 2 days on the road, Sam slashes her tires on a remote stretch and abducts her. She wakes up locked in the cellar of a woodland cabin with no phone and no way out. Sam psychologically torments her by playing videos of her dead husband on her phone in front of her. She picks the lock while he is gone, escapes into the surrounding forest, and runs. Sam follows her through the wilderness to a river. Jessica jumps in and swims downstream. She reaches an older man named Robert camping in the woods who agrees to help her. Sam tracks them, finds the camp, and kills Robert. Jessica takes Sam's phone and calls the police. There is no clean escape. Sam finds her again and they face each other directly in the trees. Sam has spent the entire film underestimating her. It costs him everything. Jessica drove hundreds of miles trying to put distance between herself and her grief and found that some things have no interest in distance. Neither did Sam. The Rental. Dave Franco's 2020 horror film. The Rental follows two couples, Charlie and Michelle, and Charlie's brother Josh and his girlfriend Mina, who rent a cliffside home on the Pacific Northwest coast for a weekend getaway. The house is managed by a caretaker named Taylor. The next morning, Mina finds a hidden camera mounted inside the shower head and realizes the affair has been recorded. She tells Charlie, but they say nothing to Josh or Michelle. Taylor returns to fix the hot tub, and Mina confronts him about the camera. Josh assaults Taylor. Now the group is in two kinds of trouble. They search a locked room under the house for the camera transceiver, but find only old boxes. The footage from the shower is sent to Josh's phone. He sees what Charlie and Mina did. As Josh confronts Mina inside the house, a masked man enters downstairs. Josh goes down thinking it is Charlie coming back. The masked man kills Josh. He then hunts Mina through the fog outside. Disoriented near the cliff edge, Mina falls into the ocean. Charlie finds Michelle's body inside the house. The masked man kills Charlie. The group believed they were being watched by the house caretaker. The killer is not Taylor. He is a former renter who installed the cameras before the group arrived and watched every moment they were in that house from outside. When the last body falls, he returns to the property, removes every camera and every listening device, and leaves no trace. During the end credits, his footage from a new rental is already running. Every room, new faces. The next group has just arrived. That house was never a private place, and no one who stayed inside it was ever truly there alone. Resurrection. Andrew Seaman's 2022 psychological horror Resurrection opens on Margaret, a controlled and successful professional living in Albany, New York, with her teenage daughter Abby, who is weeks away from leaving for college. Margaret spots David at a conference and her composure collapses immediately. David is her former partner. She was 19 when he first charmed her family, moved her into his home, and took apart who she was from the inside. That was more than 20 years ago. He is standing in a crowd looking directly at her. David begins appearing near Abby. Margaret confronts him in a park and tells him to stay away from her daughter. During their first direct exchange, David tells Margaret that Ben is with him. Ben is the child they had together, the child Margaret has lived all this time believing was dead. David claims Ben is alive inside his body and that he ate him. He tells Margaret he will allow Ben to come back to her if she performs a series of acts he calls kindnesses. The kindnesses are endurance tests that escalate into increasingly physical and disturbing ordeals. Margaret complies. She does not tell Abby. She does not tell the police. David has constructed the situation so that every move Margaret might make runs through him first. Margaret goes to David's hotel room. She has concealed a knife on her body with tape. She ties David to the bed, stabs him in the gut, slices his ankle, and cuts his stomach open. The film then shows domestic warmth. Abby preparing to leave. No sign of trauma. Margaret's face begins to change. The gasp that crosses it in the final frame confirms that David, whether dead or alive or never fully real, is a presence she was never going to finish carrying. That is the list. 6 films, and not one of them lets you feel safe where you stand. If you are picking a starting point, go with Terrified for Argentine supernatural horror that will get under your skin, then follow it with Resurrection, because that ending will stay with you far longer than you want it to. Subscribe, hit the like button, and more horror breakdowns are coming very soon.